Would you like to know more? Welcome to the Warmaster Podcast, episode 10 of Adventures in 3D Printing. It's been a couple of days since I've recorded, and I'll tell you why that is at the start of this video. On Saturday, after I got my new resin and stuff, I decided to start printing some little 6mm epic shooteroonies, they're called on Thingiverse. I think these are actually the are they Termagaunts or whatever, the ones with the guns. So these are cool. You need loads of these. Again, there's a little bit of support under the tail there. You can just flick that off. And I printed maybe about 48 or something of these on the print bed. And the middle two runs, so there's 4 runs of them. I think it was 4. And that, because they've got quite big bases that go under them. And the middle 2 rows stayed on the FEP. And as this new grey resin isn't opaque, so if that's the right word, isn't transparent, so you can't the Anycubic clear, you can actually see stuff sticking to the bed, and you can see how much rubbish is floating around in your resin vat because it's clear, and this is grey, so you can't see. It's opaque, isn't it? That's the term. That's the paint term. So you can't see what's going on anywhere near as easily. So when I finished the print, I was amazed to see half of them had stayed on the FEP, and it's well, that's not something I've experienced before, especially with these little fellows. But anyway, the half I did manage to get, I washed and cured and trimmed up, and they're quite nice. I quite like these little fellows. So I think there may be as many as 4, but there's not much difference in them really. And then I mirrored them to make some variety, but they'll be cool. 5 to a base. So that was my first print on Saturday, which required obviously to empty and clean the resin vat. And then the second print, I did the light skeletons from Forest Dragon. Just pick this rubbish off here while I'm waiting. And by this point, I've got to admit, I was starting to become like an anxious patient. So I didn't hear in the first 5 or 6 layers being printed, I didn't hear stuff being ripped off the FEP. And so I panicked, and I paused it and then emptied the vat, because again, you can't see because it's you can't see through the resin like you can with the clear resin. And it turned out that it did indeed. It wasn't pulling off the FEP. So again, that was another cleaning the FEP job. So I don't know if it was anything to do with my settings. It probably was, but I don't remember changing anything. So then I cleaned it up again. So this is the second one on Saturday. And so I'm inhaling a lot of IPA fumes and a lot of resin fumes, as you do, even with ventilation. And then I put the third lot Forest Gate, my third run of the day was the same run back of Forest Dragon light skeletons. And then something strange happened. It did happen the first time I printed these, and I think it may have been the same cause, because as I was printing along, it doesn't use very much resin. But for some reason, I panicked about the fact that there didn't appear to be much resin left in the vat. So what I did is I paused it, which you're supposed to be allowed to do, and I added more resin. And you can actually see here that, I don't know if it's because of the pausing, or it's because of the fact that I've added resin at a different temperature, or because there was a slight shift in the Z-axis from the machine. But you can actually see here that the spear tips have kind of shifted off to the right as you look, left as you're looking at it, but the right. And there's like gaps in the spears. And this was the only one that printed anywhere near right, and the rest just lost that piece, because obviously it's shifted somehow, but only for those only for those couple of three, whatever, how many layers that is, I don't know how many layers it is, but only for those layers after I paused the machine and added resin. So I would say don't pause the machine, just let it bloody run, because pausing the machine and lifting the Z thing up and adding resin appears to have caused this whole print to fail. And if you look how far along they were, I didn't print any banners of these, I just printed regular light skelly bobs. They were 90% finished, at least 90% finished, because all we got is spear tips left, and we lost the whole batch of 14. And because we lost the spear tips, what does that mean? It means bloody cleanup again. So for the third time in an afternoon, I had to empty the vat, clean the vat. And so, after a whole lot of time and effort on Saturday, I'd achieved the printing of about maybe 20 of these little termagants and nothing else. And I was sitting watching some TV, I can't remember what I was watching Saturday evening, and I started to genuinely feel sick from the amount of rubbish I'd inhaled that day. And I could taste it in my mouth and in my nasal passages and stuff. And this is after having showered and stuff. And so that was a little bit disconcerting, I've got to be honest. It's not something I'd want to be doing all day, every day. And my hat, I take my hat off to anybody that's trying to do this commercially. Obviously, if you are going to do something like this commercially, I'd recommend having some proper ventilation system, because maybe I'm just a snowflake, but I don't think so. I work out in my garage casting pewter, and I've done that or many hours at a time, and at the end you feel kind of sweaty and you can feel there's some like residue on your skin and you kind of need a shower and stuff. And I wouldn't recommend wearing those clothes outside casting, because you're carrying like heavy metal particles and stuff on them. But I've never felt sick in the evening after doing it, and after probably no more than about 3 or 4 hours all in, I was feeling sick, which was pretty annoying, to be honest. So I've had to take a few days off since, but I didn't want to come back and have anything, have no positive stuff to talk about, which is why I've taken a few days off to kind of recenter myself, put a bit of mental distance between the events of Saturday and the events of today. So today's Thursday, so I started printing again yesterday. And what did we print? Well, I my old fallback position, the 6mm NIDs, and we printed a couple of these big fellas off. Now I'm gonna have to change the focus here, so we'll go to autofocus. So we have printed a couple of massive, I don't know how I'm going to keep this bugger in focus, there we go, massive NIDs, flying NIDs. So I guess they're the equivalent of maybe Thunderhawk gunships for the Marines or something. So they're 250 points, they use a quarter of your rare capacity in a 3,000 point list. And they come with a couple of units of gargoyles. So I printed, that's the one with all the support, because I thought it'd be interesting to show you the support structure that's been washed and cured. And you can see the scaffolding that goes below it. There was a massive piece of scaffolding that was so big, I just ended up leaving it on. And I'll show you in the second one that I've trimmed up. So this is the second one that I've trimmed all the scaffolding off. There was a massive piece of scaffolding here. There's another piece here that you can kind of see that you don't see from the top. But this piece was so big, I was trying to cut it, I couldn't cut it. I thought, well, knackers, I'll just use that as the actual flying stand. It was so big. So I've just left that in and glued part of the base to this this non-legal stunt base here, a bigger version this time. So these fellas are excellent. These were Thingiverse, so you can tip your artist, whoever sculpted them, if you like. But this is a lovely piece of kit, and the ones I've seen him on Thingiverse painted, this bit's gone here. If I can get my stunt prodding tool, this bit here is gone, which is a bit of support, I think, and then this big support's gone here, and then he's glued a flying stand in. But I think this looks pretty effective here anyway, using that big support
as the flying stand, and then we'll just base this as normal. And to show scale, I've finally painted the spiny, little tiny spiny fellas. So let's see if we can get the... Oh no, I've not gone off the bloody base. Oh no! There we go. Just killed one. And that's my... this resin and me, this is going to be my issue, is I am quite clumsy-handed, and so I've not gone off. I'm sure that's not going to be an issue, but I'm not sure how robust these spines are going to be. And you can see how big this is. This is... Oh, it's quite difficult to see the 3D size of it, but this is a big old piece. So that's cool. As I said, I printed a couple of these off. I'll give them some undercoat and basing and stuff, and yeah, I'm going to print a few more 6mm nids. And I'm also going to start, as you can see, I've used my clear resin again. I find it much... There's pros and cons with all this stuff. I find it much more reassuring to be able to see the state of my resin. So, has it got loads of floaters in it? Is there anything stuck to the FEP? When you're using this clear resin, even though it's brittler, as we've discussed, the fact you can check how your resin's doing is a big thing for me. And the grey stuff, even though I prefer the how it behaves, the kind of the flexibility, rigidity, I think there's maybe slightly less definition, although it's, yeah, I'm not sure there's any real noticeable difference. I'm not sure you're gonna... It's not like you're crippling yourself by using this grey resin instead. The fact you can't see what's going on in the resin vat is an issue for me. So yeah, I'm not sure. There's horses for courses, and there's more things to consider, because if it may not be the resin that's making me feel unwell, it may be exposure to like gallons and gallons and gallons of IPA that you're using and squirting around, and it may be that's making me feel a little bit unwell. And there are water washable resins now, so that would remove the need for IPA completely. So that may be something I look at investing in and see how that performs, see what problems that brings. Because with every solution, it brings a different set of problems. So the grey resin, I think I prefer to make miniatures out of, especially ones with spears and stuff. But I'm finding for maintenance and stuff, and for making sure that the FEP's clean and stuff without having to empty every single print, I think the clear resin has an advantage that way. But they're definitely brittler, but they've probably got more detail. So yeah, there are no easy solutions to this game, but I'm just glad that I've managed to put Saturday behind me. And this crazy... If anybody knows if this is the fact that I use different resin, or if it's some kind of... let's see if I can get it to focus. If I use different resin, or if it's... if I added resin and that caused it to cool or something, or the fact I lifted it up meant that the layer had cooled too much for the next layer to join to. But the fact it shifted off one way, I think it's something went on when it's raised up, because I raised it up fully rather than raising up a little bit, and maybe there's some reason I shouldn't have done that. But I was trying to get access to the resin vat, so I wasn't trying to pour resin in and like knocking against the print bed. Anyway, that was episode 10. It was quite long, I think. Certainly longer than I'd like them to be on average. But let's see what today brings.